and turn the time over to Birgit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's class, just in time for the holidays. We're going to make some party lights today from paper bags. By the way, my name is Birgit Koopsen, and I'm a brand ambassador for Gelli Arts. And today we're going to make party lights from paper bags on the gel plate, of course. And it's a very simple way to create fun and unique party lights that you can adjust completely to your decorations at home. You can choose your own colors and your own patterns. And I have some samples here. So maybe we can turn the camera to my workspace. So I have one here with the lights on and one with the lights off. You can choose whatever kind of light you want to do in there. You can put in like a glass jar and put like a real little candle in there, or you could just put party lights with batteries in there, or even little candles like this that also have a battery in there if you want to keep it safe. So the paper bags that we're going to work with are basically, at least here in the Netherlands where I am, are the kind of bags that you can put your sandwiches in and bring them to work or to school. And I know Michael's also has paper bags in, I don't know if they are used to put food in, but or if they are especially for crafting, but it will probably work the same. It's kind of like a really thin type of paper that you can already see is a little bit translucent. You can see my hand shining through, so you can imagine that if you put a light in there that it will shine through. So if you put paint on it, you will still see the lights on there. So I'm going to use for the base, I'm going to use Liquitex acrylics. And for my samples, I used gold, but of course you can also use silver or another metallic acrylic if you like metallic. But and I did that because of the holidays and the sparkly gold. I like that for the holidays. But of course, I can imagine that you have a totally different style or color combination for your holiday decorations or your Christmas tree or whatever. And if you like, if you have, for instance, pink and yellow, you can of course also make your party lights in pink and yellow or whatever color combination you want to. So first I'm going to do to print the first layer on my paper bag, and that's going to be the metallic layer. And I'm going to open up the bag at the bottom, and my paper bags can be opened quite easily. But if your paper bags are like glued together better than these and you can't open them as easily as mine, you can also just take your scissors and cut off the bottom and then later just glue it back together again. It's just going to be a little bit shorter, but it's okay if you can't open the bag like this. And I'm going to leave it like this, and I hope it doesn't make too much of a loud sound, the paper, and you can still hear me talking. It gets better when there's paint on them. They don't make a lot that sound that much anymore when there's paint on it. I leave them like this because then I can put paint on my plate and basically roll my paper bag over the plate, and that way cover all around with paint. So I'm going to start with the gold layer. It's really simple. It's just one layer in one color and evenly spread out. And I think I need a little bit more paint because otherwise it's too translucent. The gold is a translucent paint. The silver is a more opaque paint. So you probably need a little bit less of that one. So I'm just going to start at the bottom. Or at the bottom, I'm going to line up my gel plate with the bottom of the paper bag down here, and put my paper bag on the plate and put my hands inside of the paper bag so I can rub on the inside and make sure that the paper touches the plate everywhere. And then I can just move it forward and that way go all around the paper bag. As you can see, the plate is not big enough to cover the entire paper bag, but that's okay because I can just add more to it. I'm just going to put some more paint on the plate. And then put my paper bag back on the plate to cover that last bit. So I'm just going to line it up again and roll it that way. So I could now just take this one off the plate and put it aside to dry, and then already take a new one and pick up the paint that was left on the plate. And that should be just enough for me to cover another entire plate and then also have this paper bag completely covered with paint. Let's see. And I'm going to do that right away because then I have two basic bags to work on and show you different ways of creating the texture on top of the golden layer. And it's okay if the layer is not like perfect because there's going to be another layer on top. And as long as you have the shine of the gold, then it's okay. But if you feel like you need a little bit more color, or the gold is not opaque enough, or not has not enough shine, you can of course always print two layers on top of each other if you want to. You can do as many layers as you want to or need to. So now I have two paper bags that have this like golden layer all around. I could just do the same at the top here and cover my entire bag, but I'm not going to do that because I'm just going to, and in the end, I'm just going to roll down the top of the bag, and the paint would be inside of that anyway, and you would not see it. But you can also choose to use a different way for the top of your paper bag, and then you might want to have this painted too. Actually, maybe I should do it with one of the bags. I'm actually going to do it with one of the bags. I'm just going to color the top too. So I can also show you a different way, another way of doing the top of the party light. So let's just, so I'm basically just going to do the same again, but now only at the top part of the bag. And of course you can place your gel plate the way you like it best, and whatever works the best for you. You don't have to have it like horizontal or portrait. Just move it around as it suits you best. Normally, I just tape my gel plate to my workspace because I don't want it to move around. But in this case, it sometimes is nice that I can just move it. And because the bags are pretty big, and sometimes it's easier to have it in a different position. Okay. So you see a little bit now here, the lines of where my paint is overlapping. At least I assume that you can see the lines where my paint is overlapping. This is because the paint is translucent. So of course, the more layers you get on top of each other, the more opaque it will become. But that also means that until it's completely opaque, you will see the lines where the paint is overlapping. If you don't want that, you have to put another layer on top. But because I'm going to print on top of this with different colors, I don't really mind, because it's going to be, they're going to have kind of a distressed look anyway. And for me, they don't have to be perfect, because the patterns that are going to be on top and the textures that are going to be on top are not going to be perfect either. So this is fine with me. Now I'm going to show you some ways of creating pattern on these bags. Or should I, maybe I should paint one more bag before adding the pattern, because I also want to do a silver one. So I'm actually going to do that, because then I don't have to do that in between later, and I can just continue with the second layers. I'm going to put these aside. Am I going to clean my plate? Do I care that there's still a little bit gold there? No, I don't care. Of course, you could clean the plate if you want to. This would be easy because the paint is still very fresh. You could just use a wet cloth or a baby wipe. But if the paint is on there for a little bit longer, or it's coming off a little bit harder, then you could use some baby oil to clean your plate. Or you could use something like a clear tape to remove dried paint from your plate, and then even end up with some fun collage material. But I'm okay with a little bit of gold showing up in my silver. Not a problem. So it will show less on the paper than the gold, because the silver is very close to the white background, of course. So I'm not sure if you can really see that I have a silver bag here. But you just have to believe me. I don't know. Can you see? Yeah, you can see that it's like really shiny, different than the white here. So a little bit that I need there. And then I'm going to go to the next step. Yeah. You have to make sure that you don't use too much paint, at least not in like one layer. It's better to build up layers if you want it to be more opaque, or if you want the colors to be more intense, you can build up layers, but don't use too much paint on the paper bags, because the paper bags are really quite thin paper, and if you use too much paint, then the paper gets like wet and it tears easily, and of course that's not what you want. I'm just going to use a sheet of paper to remove some of that excess paint that was left behind. As long as the paint is wet, I should be able to just get off most of it this way. And again, I don't care if there's a little bit of paint left on the plate, but I don't want too much left on the plate. So as you can see, quite a lot still came off. Okay. And now I want to make the textures and patterns. So there are different ways of creating pattern on the paper bags, and it's basically the same kind of ways you can use for any type of gel printing. But I noticed for making the party lights that what works best, I'm just going to put out the light. What works best is if you have like open spaces, and around the open spaces there is paint. So instead of having dots on the gold background, it's better to have golden dots in a darker surrounding. That works, for some reason, works better for the lights. Like here, I also used Punchinella. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So I have the dots are basically, I removed paint from the plate to create the dots, and all the paint that was around the dots is what I print on my paper. If I do it the other way around and I have a golden background with dots on top of it, it somehow doesn't work the same way. It's as if the light is coming through the open spaces, if that makes any sense at all. It will make more sense when I show you. It will make more sense when I actually show you. So for the first one, I think I'm just going to start with the golden one. I want my paint to be dry before I print on top, because I learned that by gel printing so much that you can pull paint from the plate better with dry paper than with a layer of paint that is still wet. So wet paint is not pulling up another layer of paint from the plate. So it's always better to print on a dry surface. So this is the first one that I just made. So that is the one that is the most dry. So I'm going to start working on that one. And I'm just going to use the large bubble wrap, the one that I also used for my sample, to show you how I created this one. And as you can see, this has been used quite a lot, and some of the bubbles are even broken, and they will not, the ones that are broken will not work anymore, but that's also fine with me. I like the distressed look. I like the not being so perfect. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this one again. And let me see. Now I can use any color I want, and my samples are purple and magenta. And how about using a deep green, maybe in combination with a darker blue, because I like it. I like to combine colors and not use like one plain color. I think that's a little bit boring to just use one color, but of course that's a matter of taste, and maybe you actually like using only the gold as a base and then only one color on top, and that's of course also totally fine. So I'm going to add my paint to my plate, and I'm using Liquitex Basics acrylic, and I'm also using Winsor Newton Galleria. And these two paints are both semi-translucent. And how do I know? I need some paint on my hand here. And before I have it everywhere, I just have to clean it off. So if you use a professional or a student quality paint, then usually you can tell on the tube whether the paint is translucent or opaque. So you can see that there's a little square here. And if the square is open, then you have a translucent paint. And if the square is like a half black and half open, then you have a semi-translucent paint. And if the square would be completely black, then you would have an opaque paint. So that way you can tell what you can expect from your paint. And in this matter, for me, it's not really important to know whether or not my paint is opaque or not, because it will work anyway. It's like really thin layers. There will be open areas. So everything is fine. But I can imagine that you do printing where it actually is important to know whether or not your paint is opaque, and that is how you can tell. I'm going to roll out my paint, and I'm going to make the colors blend somewhere in the middle. And as I said before, my bag or my plate is not big enough to cover the entire bag. So I have to work in two parts, but that's okay, because most of the time, so here you can tell where my pattern overlaps, but it's not something that is like really obvious, and a lot of times it will be like in front of a wall or something anyway, and you can just put the side where it's overlapping to the on the back side. But yeah, if you have smaller bags or a bigger plate, then of course you don't have this problem. And I don't know if there are smaller bags available in the US. I assume that most of the people that are watching right now are in the US, but also in different countries. If you have like really small paper bags, because I was thinking this afternoon how cool it would be if you have like tiny paper bags, like maybe this big, and you put a light like this in there, and you could put a name tag on it and place the little paper bags on the Christmas table for everybody to like a seat. How do you call it? A placement? I don't know. But I don't know what it's called, but you know what I mean, right? I'm pretty sure you know what I mean. So, okay, here we go. The same, I'm going to do it the same way as I did with the gold. I'm just going to put my paper bag here and roll it. And then just rub it inside of the paper bag. Make sure that I push down the paper bag firmly and rub it everywhere, so I pick up all of the paint and the texture from my plate. I need a little bit of rubbing there. So my paint started to dry already a little bit, but it's still okay. So if you want more time to work and make sure that your paint is not drying before you actually picked it up, this looks pretty cool, don't you think? Just
Very
in between. Nice, huh? So if you want more time to work before your paint dries, you can add a little bit of slow dry blending medium. For instance, the one that I have here is from Liquitex. And I'm going to finish this one. And in my next paper bag, I'm going to actually show you how I use the slow dry medium with my paint on the plate to get a nice mixture of the medium and the paint. But I'm just going to finish this one. So here I still have a little area that needs to be covered, and I want the same colors and the same texture, of course. So I'm going to use the same two colors. And I have my bag lying here, so I can see that I need the green to be on this side and I need the blue to be on that side. And I don't need to do the entire plate because I only need to cover this small part, and I don't want to waste any paint. So I'm just going to like cover a little bit less than half of the plate with the paint, just enough to cover that part. That should be enough. And of course, I have to put the bubble wrap in there again to get the same texture. And I'm just going to line up my paper here and roll it down until I reach this edge of my previous print. And I try to make them overlap as little as possible, so you don't really see that line of where the two parts came together. So here it's actually on the edge of the paper bag, and here, well, if you look closely and you know, you will see, but once the paper bag is put together again, you will hardly notice that this was done in two parts and not like in one go. So I'm going to put that one aside. And now I actually want to clean my plate because I want to use different colors for my next bag. And I don't want it to mix with these colors because I think I want to use something like a magenta or something. And magenta and green, when they mix, they create mud. And I don't want mud. So I'm just going to clean my plate real quick using a baby wipe. And because the paint is still fresh, it should come off quite easily. And it does. And again, I don't care if there are little bits of paint left. If there's still a tiny bit of paint, I don't need to clean my plate like completely and perfectly, but I just want most of it, most of the paint off. And I'm also going to use a paper towel to dry the plate because my baby wipes are quite wet. And if the surface of the gel plate is wet from the baby wipes, then it dilutes the paint that I will put on top. And I just don't want that. So I usually always dry my gel plate when I used a baby wipe or a wet cloth to clean it. I think I'm just going to do the silver one now. I think silver would look great with magenta. Or yeah, let's do a magenta. And how about a bright aqua green? I think this is a nice, let's do something wild, like not Christmassy at all. And just try, let me see, or that one. No, I'm just going to have this one. A little bit of that. And no, I'm just going to put it like this. And again, have the colors next to each other and blend them in the middle. But that is also a matter of personal taste, of course. You could also mix them up, and instead of having the colors next to each other, and I was supposed to show you the blending medium. Well, it has to go in the next one then, because I can't do it anymore now unless I remove all the paint from the plate, and that's not something I want to do. Because that would be a waste of paint. Okay, so another thing you can do is use, for instance, the Gelli Arts mini tools and create some pattern, a wavy pattern, for instance. Something like this. I think I should have actually used that slow dry blending medium for this one, because it feels as if the aqua green is already drying, but we'll see. Okay, I'm just going to line this one up again and roll it out. And hopefully it's still wet enough. Oh, not too bad, I think. Of course, this one is a little bit harder to line up this area with this pattern. But I do like the pattern with the silver and the sparkle that it adds to the colors. Trying to clean up the paint, and I think this is clean enough. So now we need to fill that little area there with the magenta. And the aqua green. And roll it out again, only part of the plate, because I don't need the entire plate to be filled. And I don't know if you noticed that I'm not like rolling like this, but picking up my brayer every time I get, I change the direction, because this is not the right one. This is the one that I used, I think. Because if you keep rolling for back and forward, then you're not spreading the paint as well as when you pick up the brayer and put it down again in every move that you make. So it's better to lift it up and put it back down. It works better to spread the paint evenly on the plate. If you just move your brayer like this, the paint will stay in the same position as long as you do this. So it's not like spreading. And if you pick it up and put it down again, then it's spreaded more evenly, and you get a better layer of paint on your plate. So this worked out pretty well, actually. You can hardly see where the color overlaps. So I'm pretty pleased with this one. And then I'm going to show you another one before putting the bags together again and show you how I finished them. So on this one, I'm going to use paper snowflakes, and these are paper snowflakes that I actually created in my previous class. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I did Michael's class on wintry prints with hand-cut snowflakes, and that class is also a free class and available as a recording on the website. And I think Luann will put the link in the chat, so you can also watch that class if you would like to know how I created those prints with the snowflakes. And I thought it would be also fun to use the snowflakes for this class, because you can create a really nice open space, an open image or pattern, or however you would call it, and see the gold really well in that open area. So for this layer, I'm going to use the blending medium, which is actually good that I'm going to use it for this one, because this might take a little bit longer to create the pattern on the plate. And then it's nice if your paint is not like drying instantly. So I'm just going to choose a couple of the snowflakes that I like. Smaller ones, maybe a little bit more detail. I think this is also a nice one. Okay. First, I have to choose my colors. Let me see, what colors am I going to use on the gold? I think I'm going to do again a magenta, but this time in combination with a darker blue. So the Prussian blue hue and the magenta. And for this particular print, I don't need I think it's called gradient, where I blend the colors in the middle. For this print, I can actually just, and again, I'm almost forgetting about the medium. So what I usually do, what you can do is put some paint in a little cup or a jar, and then add some slow dry blending medium, and then mix it, and then you have a more open acrylic paint. So an acrylic paint that takes a longer time to dry. But I usually end up with way too much paint that is mixed, and that I can't really like keep store in a way that it's not like drying before the next time that I want to use it. So I prefer to use exactly as much as I need, and not waste any dry, slow dry medium or any paint. So I just add a couple of drops drops of slow dry medium, just a few on the plate. And then I roll it out. So I get this like thin layer of slow dry medium all over my plate before I add the paint. And now if I add the paint and roll out the paint on my plate, it will mix with the blending medium. And you get a nice even mix of the paint and the medium without wasting any paint or medium. So then you also only use it when you need it and you don't have like a stash of pre-made acrylic paints that might dry out before you even get to work with them. So now it will take much longer for the paint to dry. And as you can see, I don't mix it like completely the colors because I like it when you can actually still see that there were used different colors instead of just blending it together into one new color. And now I can really take my time and decide where I want to put which snowflake and put it down. It also is really nice if you work with paper shapes like this, that they will be easier to remove from the plate after printing because the paint underneath will still be wet. So if you use paint that is like drying quite quickly, then also the paint underneath the paper will dry quite quickly, and then it's harder to remove the shapes from the plate after you made your print. So it has a couple of benefits using the slow dry medium. So why don't I use it all the time? Well, most of the time I like to work quite quickly and add a lot of layers on top of each other. And as I said before at the beginning of this class, your paper, your print actually needs to be dry before adding a new layer, because wet paper that has wet paint on it will not pick up paint as well from the plate as dry paper does. So a lot of times it's just more convenient for me to have my paint dry quickly. So this is not going to work. I don't have a shape that fits in there. Anyway, I'm just going to do it like this. You're not going to see all of them. Anyway, okay, so now I'm going to roll my bag again on top of the color. I line it up down here and then carefully roll it to the other side. And here I have to be even more careful. I really have to feel with my fingers where the paper shapes are, because I want to have crisp outlines of the paper shapes, which means that I have to make sure that I get really inside of all the open areas, all the little open spaces, and also in the open areas between the paper shapes, to make sure that I pick up all of the paint to create those crisp outlines. So here is still something missing. It looks like, at least it looks like that. Maybe it's just that the shapes are really small. So Here we
Okay,
go.
so while you're doing that, somebody has asked, Nellie's asked about the snowflake shapes. Did you make them? And if you did, what paper did you use?
Yeah, so I did make them. They are hand cut, and the paper I used is just general copier paper, so thin copier paper. And I used the thin copier paper because of the way that the snowflakes are cut, because you have to fold the paper before cutting them. And so the paper needs to be as thin as possible, without being too thin, because then they would tear when you pull them from the plate. So if you want to know all about how to create these shapes, then you can watch my my lesson from 2 weeks ago, which is available on the Gelli Arts YouTube channel, and also I think on the Michael's website.
Yes, yes. And I posted the link in the chat.
Great. So that's great. So you can see all about how I created these shapes and what I printed with them in that class. Or you could just look up on Google something like cutting paper snowflakes, paper snowflakes or something. But for the gel printing, it is really important that you that the paper that you're using is not too thin, because it will just tear when you lift them up. So you could see that my shapes came off quite easily, and that is because of the slow dry medium. So they are not stuck to the plate already because of the paint drying. And I think I can make a really nice print from the paint that is left behind on the plate. But in order to get that print, it has to actually dry a little bit to be able to pick it up with a new layer of paint. But we don't have time to wait for this paint to dry. So I'm just going to try and see what happens if I print it straight on white paper, how wet it still is. Because after all, I used that slow dry medium. So maybe it's still wet enough to pick it up. And if not, then that's a shame, but I have to move on and finish my paper bags. So we'll just see. So normally, if I would have more than enough time, I would just have waited for the paint to dry. And if I would not have used that slow dry medium, then it would have been almost dry already. And I could have put another layer of paint on top to pick up this this print. So it all has its benefits. Using slow dry medium has, and not using it also has a benefit. But yeah, this is what came off, which could be a really fun base for more printing on top. But also not all of it came off, and I'm just going to use some silver paint. Another way of cleaning your plate is adding a layer of paint to already dried paint. And then that way pick up the dried paint from the plate. And I need a clean plate. So I'm just going to use, because I had the silver paint lying around here, I'm just going to use that to pick up the dried paint. And if I use the right amount of paint to do this, then my plate will be like almost completely clean, at least clean enough to continue working. Most of the paint should come off with this print. And it does. So the plate is almost clean. And this is what came off. Pretty nice distressed background for an art journal page or whatever. And I need a little bit more still here, and then I can put the bags together. So real quick, I'm going to make that little area that needs to go in there, and I'm not even going to use that slow dry medium because I want to be quick anyway. Is this big enough? Should be big enough. And then I'm placing these here again. And lining this up. Yeah. Perfect.
So
Yes.
nice. Looks great.
Yeah, I like it too. I think the snowflakes will look really nice with when the lights go in there in the bag. So again, removing leftover paint from the plate. And this is how I will put the plate away. So I'm not going to do anything else to my plate before putting it away. I'm just going to put it away like this. And next time I start printing, the little bits of leftover paint in here will make sure that even my first print will have a little bit of a distressed look, some extra color in there that I didn't put on the plate in that moment, but gives a little more interest to my print. So I'm not going to clean it. I'm just going to store it like this. And because I do a lot of gel printing, storing is a big word. I just put it on my desk, and tomorrow I will probably use it again. But if I would like really store it, I would just put it between 2 sheets of copier paper and then put it back into the plastic, how do you call it? The packaging where it came in. So now I'm just going to put it aside.
Oh, the clamshell.
Exactly, that's that's the word, the clamshell. Just between copier paper, make sure there are no wrinkles in the copier paper, because you might end up seeing those in your plate when you leave it on for too long. But normally copier paper is the best way to store your plates. So now I want to put these bags back together, and I'm just going to use the folds that are already in there. So I know exactly how to glue it together, which is basically just fold the bottom and then put some glue in there, an adhesive. I'm using an adhesive tape, but any adhesive would work. And I'm just going to fold it over, and this is going to be the bottom, so you're not going to see anything of it anymore once you put your bag down like this. And my paint is still a bit wet, which makes it feel a little fragile. You have to be a little bit careful, maybe not to tear it. So as you could see in my sample, what I did in my sample was roll down the top of the bag, and here I put my paint a little bit higher, so I'm not going to roll this one down. So I'm also going to glue this one together, because then I can do it with this one. Do I still have time? When I'm quick, I have time.
Yes, yes, you have time. We're good.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to do the bottom together.
I forgot what you said. Why wouldn't you fold the other bag down with the paint at the top?
I'm going to use a different way to, instead of rolling it down, I'm going to use shaped scissors to cut the top, and just it just gives a different look.
Okay.
So there are different ways of doing it. If you like it to have this like kind of a bag feel and roll it down, then this is what you do. You just roll it down like this, and then you can put like a glass or a little jar, or I don't have that here, but I have a little jar for my brushes that I can put in there, so it will stand.
Yeah.
So it will stand.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do your place card idea. I love that idea.
Yeah, I thought this. It just came to my mind this afternoon. And I thought, how fun would it be if you have like these little tiny paper bags and put like this like little candle in there.
Right.
So now you can just take some hemp rope and put it around the bag like this, and just leave it like that. Or you could hang an ornament on there, like a little Christmas ball, or as I said, like a name tag. But of course, you could also use, for instance, shaped scissors, like scallops, or I don't know what this is called.
Like serrated.
Yeah. So just put the bag, make it flat again, and then use the scissors to create a shaped top, and you can make it a little bit shorter than when you roll it. And instead of putting the rope around it, you can just leave it like this. Or you could also still put rope around it, but not roll it down. So you keep seeing that, I don't know how to say it, that you still see the edge that you made with the shaped scissors. And of course, what you also could do is, like when you use the lights with the batteries, like the one that is in here, then you could also just close it completely, like put the rope around it, and just let me see if I can make that happen right now. So you just make like a little closed bag like this, and I can assure you that you will still see the lights in there. So you have to make sure, of course, that the little that the batteries are outside of the bag, because otherwise you can't put the lights on. But if you put them on a shelf or something like this, and you have the batteries on the back, you won't see them, and you will just have little lit up bag. So
I think that's so cute. I love that.
It is cute, isn't it? I think it's cute.
I think I'm going to put it on my table as a part of the centerpiece.
Good. Well, I want to see pictures then.
Okay.
I'm curious what you make. And that goes for all of you. If you create something inspired by this class and do some party lights, we would love to see what you create. So please share on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and put tag Gelli Arts and Michael's. And if you like to, you can tag me too, because we would love to see what you create. And I hope you enjoyed today's class. It was my last class for this year. So I'm wishing you happy holidays, and I hope to see you again next year with new inspiring classes. So for now, I wish you a lovely day, evening, morning, wherever you are, and hopefully see you soon again. Bye-bye.